Good evening. The BBC has seen evidence that the multinational corporation which owns Jaguar Land Rover arranged for a whistleblower to be sacked for publishing concerns about the safety of electric cars it helped to design. Confidential emails between executives at companies owned by Tata Group revealed they retaliated against the engineer involved for posting concerns online that lives were being put at risk. Jaguar Land Rover and Tata Group have declined to comment. The BBC's financial investigations correspondent Andy Verity has this exclusive report.
This is how Jaguar would now like to be seen. No longer a brand beloved of wealthy middle-aged men, but young, out of the ordinary, and, no matter how you see yourself, inclusive. But for mechanical engineer Hazar Denli, it's anything but. In July, he was sacked by Jaguar Land Rover, not for anything he said about Jaguar, but for publishing concerns about the safety of a different car that the multinational company that owns it, Tata Group, had helped design. Early last year, Hazar was working at another division of Tata Group called Tata Technologies, which was being paid by a new Vietnamese car maker, VinFast, to design and test its electric cars.
The employees should be able to raise issues.
He drove to Myra Technology Park near Nuneaton to test the prototypes. He says unlike other cars he tested, what he saw in the VinFast car disturbed him, including the part that connects the wheel to the steering and suspension, the knuckle.
We saw, for example, the front strut to knuckle connections loosening, which could be extremely dangerous. It could cause a loosening of the entire structure. It could cause wheels to come off. In a crash scenario, it could be completely unsafe. It could cause the vehicle to lose control. We saw issues with the rear suspension where entire struts were snapping off in the drive units. Some of the brackets were completely failing and falling out onto the road. And we're talking several, 1 or 2 kilograms worth of aluminium. These were extremely concerning behaviours at low mileages that we saw in Myra, and these started causing alarm bells to go off.
Did you try to raise this internally with your bosses?
Of course, I raised it immediately with my then boss, who himself then raised it up to the vehicle line director. I found solutions to a lot of problems. I then went with the solutions to the top of the tree at both VinFast and at Tata Technologies, of which, unfortunately, because we were so close to production and the associated costs with making such changes, this was shut down and buried under the carpet. I did not want to be a part of what was happening, so I decided to leave.
In January this year, Hazar began working a new contract at Jaguar Land Rover in Gaydon. But he kept seeing reports about earlier models of the same VinFast car, including a video that appears to show a car reversing itself with no driver in it, and crashed cars where the wheels had come off. Then in May, he saw this.
Now to new details in a deadly car crash that killed a family of 4 in the East Bay. A complaint to safety regulators raises concerns about the electric vehicle the family was driving.
On seeing this, he says, he felt duty-bound to warn the public about VinFast, posting on Reddit that he'd worked on the car's design and he wouldn't let his loved ones get into one.
I was distressed as to what was happening around the world, where innocent people were just paying the price. And I thought that if they see that some people would start to speak up about it, they would actually be forced to make some changes. Unfortunately, their response was not to make these improvements, but hey, who said this? Let's go and shut him up.
Tata Technologies, based here in Leamington Spa, is the sister company to Jaguar Land Rover. They both have the same Indian parent company, Tata Group, but they're supposed to be separate legal entities. Nevertheless, I've seen emails showing that when executives here found out that it was Hazar Denli who'd made the Reddit posts, they got in touch with their counterparts at Jaguar Land Rover to demand that he be sacked. And then he was blacklisted on an industry recruitment platform, meaning he might never find work that way again.
VinFast said, "We do not interfere in the recruitment or HR activities of the Tata Group or its companies." Jaguar Land Rover said it didn't comment on ongoing legal proceedings. Its parent company, Tata Group, made no response.
And Andy Verity is with me now. Andy, is this an isolated case?
Unfortunately not. You see this time and again. We all know what a whistleblower is, like a referee in football. You see something wrong, you blow the whistle. It's someone who tries to speak up about something going wrong and get something done about it. But if you do have your employer retaliate against you, there's supposed to be a law called the Public Interest Disclosure Act 1998, which protects you if you're talking about things like public safety. But if you do get sacked or blacklisted and go to a tribunal, what you find is you have to prove that you were only sacked for that reason. And that's why MPs and peers are bringing laws, actually there's a law before Parliament today, which says we need an office of the whistleblower to protect whistleblowers. I spoke to one who's the former Transport Minister, Susan Kramer.
The instinct is let's protect the reputation of the company, not let's act on the information that we've got. And then there's retaliation against the whistleblower. And despite the fact that we say we have whistleblower legislation in place that's meant to protect them, whistleblowers very typically find themselves fired, that's blacklisted for future jobs, their finances get drained, the stress on their family. It is not acceptable because we need whistleblowers to deter wrongdoing and to expose wrongdoing.
So is the government support for reforming it?
Not yet. What the MPs and peers say is it should be like the United States. In the US, if the regulators fine a company, then actually the whistleblower gets 10% of that. So there's a huge incentive to blow the whistle, which offsets all the deterrent factors, like you might wreck your career, like it might have a bad effect on your mental health. So the government hasn't swung behind it yet, but certainly there are lots of MPs with whistleblowers in their post bags and inboxes who would like something to change.
Yeah, interesting. Andy Verity, thank you very much.